Okay, so I am playing with the idea of doing video, possibly audio sometimes only, but maybe just, I don't know, I'm just playing here, but doing a B side to these blog posts for my assignments here. And by B side, I'm just referencing, like, when I was young, cassette tapes have a B side. So, what you hear on the other side of the tape. A lot of times the good songs are on the front, and other ones that are more quirky might be on the back. But just my own reflections that are more casual and disordered, and maybe not synopsizing or not trying to analyze, but sort of just go into my own tangent for my own enrichment, if nothing else. That's the B side. So here you are. This is for the How of Happiness and comments. So basically, some of the main ideas of the book that, for instance, that happiness is not substantially produced by these situational things, these externalities. I definitely endorse that idea because I grew up around a lot of rich people, and I found them to be no more happy, to say the least, than surrounding people. I'd even say that wealth can produce a lot of misery in people, and there are some books and some evidence that suggests in some circumstances that's true. My point of view on that is probably like that it has to do with expectation management on one hand, and also being misled. So if you believe that money will make you happy, I think that whether you become wealthy or not, you're in for some pain because it's actually not true. So nothing wrong with money. It won't make you unhappy just because it's money, but it'll make you unhappy if you think that that's where your happiness is going to be, because you'll pursue it and then you'll wonder why your happiness level hasn't changed. It'll change for just a moment and then it'll come back down. And your expectations have been mismanaged, and then you become, I guess, maybe depressed. Or maybe you also don't work on the maintenance things, the well-being things like your character and health. And, I don't know, I think serving humanity is super important for happiness, actually, in some interesting ways. I think it's the most important thing, personally. And if you're not doing those things because you don't think that those are going to lead you to happiness, you thought money was going to do that, then, you're cheating on your wife and you're wondering why your marriage is miserable and, doing all these other things. Haven't been maintaining your well-being, right? Spiritual and otherwise, health, whatever. So those other sources. So basically I'm on board with some of the things the book is saying. It's important, I think, this book. I really was loving that part about the king of Bhutan. I had heard something about that, about the gross domestic happiness index. Where did I hear about that? Somewhere, podcast, NPR, maybe Freakonomics, but it was good to get more detail on this because I was very interested in that, and I fully endorse that notion too. I think gross domestic happiness is a much more important economic indicator than GDP. I think it's quite appropriate, and I think it's wonderful. So I'm gonna add that to my discussions a lot, actually. Glad to have that detail. I noticed there is a place where the author says if you scored as depressed, you should seek a health professional. You should seek a health professional, and even says you should possibly seek antidepressant medication. I feel like this was kind of a forced part of the book, but that's not a criticism. I would write the same kind of thing if I were writing this book, because I think that it speaks to how timid we are in the midst of medication culture to ever suggest happiness might encompass non-pharmacological remedies. You just kind of, it's like a liability thing. I think authors feel compelled, it's just pretty interesting. In the wake of the opioid epidemic, I just wanted to comment that, I am appalled by it and really concerned about it, and my heart and compassion goes out to people who suffer from opioid addiction, and I don't blame them at all. I think that they're victims. of an industry that substantially has lied to them and exaggerated things. And I know that specific medications are implicated and that there are specific medications that have been really lied to about in a hardcore way. But I do think that more generally, this idea that happiness is, to be found in a bottle, I think it's been insinuated more than it should be. And too much weight has been given to this, and too much force has been put behind these things. I think I sense. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating the case, but I sense that yeah, as an author, like you feel compelled to say medicine is good and necessary times. I'm like, well, of course it is. Nobody doesn't think that. I hope, but you just feel compelled to say that just to cover yourself, right? And it's unfortunate. I think it's probably the first generation in history that has felt like if I'm writing a book about happiness, I have to like endorse medication in some way. It's just not necessary. It's not what the book is really about. But again, that's exactly what I would do because I'd be worried about a lawsuit. And it doesn't take more than a paragraph, and he gets it out of the way and then talks about what he really wants to talk, or she, right? Isn't it a female author? I should be paying attention to this, right? So, opioid epidemic. We prescribe medications too easily. I'm sure that there are people out there who need this book more than the prescriptions. So those are some of my comments. And if this seemed disjointed and loose, well, it was kind of supposed to be. So if you want something tidier and more refined and more organized, then read the blog post. Thank you.